Hello collectors! Today's review of the Deforeal 1964 Godzilla is sponsored by a patron of mine, Justice from Kaiju Conversation. It's a fun podcast focusing on different aspects of kaiju goodness, usually featuring guests you might know of on YouTube or maybe elsewhere around the kaiju fandom. You can find their YouTube channel at the card popping up on the top right hand corner of your screen right about now, or at links in the description down below. Be sure to check them out. Thanks again to Justice and the Kaiju Conversation crew for supporting the channel. Dragon Ball, Pokemon, Kaiju, and more. It's Steven's Toy Reviews. Hello collectors, it is Steven here, and I am back with another X Plus review for you. This time we are going to go ahead and chibify that to a D for real for you. We're going to be taking a look at the Deforeal Godzilla 1964. Now you may have remembered the GMK Godzilla that came out a few months back, and the Rick version of that came with Godzilla squishing Baragon. Well, this time around, Godzilla does come with another kaiju in the standard version, thankfully, and that is going to be one of the Mothra larvae biting onto Godzilla's tail. But the Rick version comes with another Mothra larva, where it's going to be in its own little mountain range looking on at the carnage. Now, for the Rick version, we get that bonus Mothra larva. For the standard version, we just get Godzilla flailing around. Which version is right for you? Well, let's take a look to see whether or not either one of these would be worth adding into your collection. Whether you're going to get the standard or you're going to get the Rick, both of the core figures are going to be 100% identical. Well, okay, not 100% identical because yours may just look a tad bit different than mine because, quality can range and, paint in the factory that day, maybe they could have thinned it out from one unit to the next. But anyway, you understand what I'm saying. Basically, for the Rick, you're only going to be getting that extra Mothra larva as a difference, okay? So, the actual core figure in and of itself, it looks phenomenal. I am not really a big fan of the 1964 design, gotta be honest with you, but they did a great job of making this figure make me want to like the design. I hope that kind of makes sense to you. Now, the one thing I do have to admit is do be careful of paint transfer and paint scrapage, because when I put this guy back into the box for storage purposes after I checked it for any damages, unfortunately, when I brought it back out, I did notice that there was some paint transfer on the actual plastic tray where this guy sat in, the clamshell, if you will. So, do take note, this thing can transfer paint relatively easily compared to the other Deforeals. Now let's just go ahead and take a closer look at this big lug, and we're going to go ahead and start with that brow. And I do have to say that the eyebrows on this guy look great. There is just the right amount of thick brown paint to convey the fact that this is, his eyebrow, and it also mixes in with the charcoal gray of the skin, along with some of the other paints that are used to really bring out the sculpt here for Godzilla, and it looks really, really good. That is going to be one of the themes you're going to see here for the figure. Aside from a couple of very, very minute instances of paint application here, everything looks like it was made for a top-of-the-line super duper high quality figure. The paint shading and the paint blending looks great, whether it's going to be on the claws, on the hands, or even on the feet. Yes, in one small spot or two when you are taking a look at my super zoomed in macro lens action here, you're gonna notice some imperfections. But when you're actually looking at it in hand, it does not look that bad at all. Even so far as taking a look at the eyes, which, guess what? They are going to be decals. And you know what? The actual gradient that is used for the eye decals here is phenomenal. And you know what? You can't even tell anything is sort of pixelated or digitized like you can often tell on some decals. X Plus did a great job of sort of hiding all of the tricks that they have up their sleeves for this release, including on the dorsal plates, which sometimes can be a bit hit or miss. They did a great job at making sure that they looked great here. And of course, the one thing that I always have to draw attention to whenever I'm talking about the 1964 Godzilla is going to be that sternum. Yep, I do have to say the two big features of the 1964 design are going to be those eyebrows and that sternum. Now, this Godzilla does have a tag-along, so let's go ahead and take a quick look at that Mothra larva. And normally, you're not going to say too much about this figure here, but you know what? there is a bit to say. Now, the paint application on this little one is actually really cool. Depending on how the light hits it, I was actually afraid that mine had holes in it. This isn't the case. It's just that they were able to execute the different layers of paint and the different coats in such a way that the actual ridges and the drop-offs for the Mothra larva, they actually look like they have significant depth to them. So that makes the figure look all that more realistic, even so much so that it's biting onto Godzilla's tail. And what's even cooler than that is the blue that it's used for the eyes. Guess what? No paint slop. That is something to really be happy about, because that is something that is very easy to mess up. So all in all here for the core figure, it looks great. The paint application is wonderful. The mouth details on Godzilla are phenomenal. And by the way, they even included the holes in the neck, so this way the suit actor can see out. And I did get the Rick exclusive because I just had to have that little extra Mothra larva on that little mountain hilly base, and it does actually look pretty rock solid. Again, the paint application is pretty much carried over from the one that is on Godzilla's tail. So this way we do have very nice quality. The shading from the underbelly up to the top is great, with a nice somewhat metallic bronze coloration mixed in with some browns. So this way it does look like it's going to reflect some light, and at the same time it's relatively muted. So that is nice to see that they were able to get a nice accurate coloration for Mothra that's not going to be gaudy on the shelf, but it's going to look cool. The blue eyes also have a very unique paint coloration here, not exactly 100% the same to the one on the tail, but you know what, it works wonders as well. Then we do also have the little mountains, the hill range for the Mothra that it's crawling on over. Gotta be honest with you here, it's not super duper highly magnificent or impressive insofar as that it's going to be eye-catching and colorful. However, the sculpted details are pretty sweet. To be honest with you, you'd think that this was something that you would actually find in nature, and they actually took the time to paint it relatively well as well. Overall, this is a nice bonus if you are looking to collect the uniqueness of the Deforeal figures. Now, since this figure has no articulation and there really isn't much more to talk about, we're going to go ahead and round out the review with a size comparison with some other figures you just might have. So this way you can see that, yes, this is actually a taller Deforeal figure, but to be honest with you, it's not going to be one of the bigger ones in your collection. That title definitely has to stick with the King Kong vs. Godzilla Deforeal that came out towards the end of 2018. That is quite a big boy, but still, if you are a fan of Deforeal stuff, this will just blend in perfectly fine with the other ones that you already have on the shelf. So, buy now, skip, or wait for a deal. This is about my third time recording it because I just keep rambling on about how awesome this figure is in comparison to previous Deforeal figures, so I'm just going to go ahead and knock it down to size. The figure has great paint applications. It has one minor seam which is noticeable that if it bugs you, please go seek medical attention immediately. And to be honest with you, it has a bonus built into it that you don't have to pay Rick prices for. But if you do want an extra bonus, you do have that option of getting the Rick extra of the little Mothra larva on the little mountain range base. Very cool. So if you want more, you have the option. If you're content with more already being built into the standard, congratulations, you get that. This is definitely the epitome of the Deforeal releases, and I have to put this almost on par with the 1954 release. Overall, this is a fantastic release in the Deforeal line, and if you're thinking about maybe getting this, yeah, I'd get it sooner rather than later. You don't want those aftermarket prices to creep up any higher. Well, collectors, that brings us to the end of the video today, and I just wanted to take a second to thank you so much for watching. Now, you've heard a lot from me. I'd like to hear a little bit from you. Drop in the comments down below whether or not you liked it, you hated it, or maybe you were somewhere in between. I also want to take an extra second here for a nice, humongous thank you to all the patrons for SDR over the last month who have really helped the channel grow into what it can be today. So to all of you, 2 big thumbs up. Thank you very much. And now the end card should be popping up, which will give you a few clickable links, like maybe to subscribe or head on over to my Patreon, or some short URLs like to my social media or to my Teespring store. There's also a video I hand selected for you, so if you want to watch another STR video, I hand selected some good content for you to watch, so definitely check out that video. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll catch ya in the next video.